distinguished ministers, dear representatives of our social partners, workers and employers representatives, and other government representatives, it is a great pleasure to welcome you to this side event, to this 61st session of the Commission for Social Development, which is a hybrid event. We are here in the conference room of the United Nations headquarters, but the event is also web streamed, and it is my great pleasure to again welcome you warmly to today's discussion. We are coming to the end of the 61st Commission of Social Development, and we heard throughout the days this week delegates speaking to the importance of employment and social protection and the need to actually connect these two to foster formalization of informal employment and linking this to the extension of social protection floor. And it is really a very opportune moment now to convene this meeting under the auspices of the USP 2030, a partnership that now convenes more than 40 members, is co-chaired by the ILO and the World Bank. And again, we are truly honored by your presence here, ministers, to share your perspectives, and by all the other stakeholders who are connecting online. Without further ado, I would like to ask Mr. Dirk Meyer, the Director General for Global Health, Employment, Transformation of the Economy, Digital Technologies, Food and Nutrition Security of the Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development of Germany. Mr. Meyer, this is a full plate you have there in your department, and we are very pleased that you were able to connect today virtually. And I would like to give you the opportunity to say some opening remarks. Mr. Meyer, the floor is yours, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Distinguished ministers, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, thank you very much. Social protection has long been overlooked. In 1948, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights stated that everyone has the right to, I quote, a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of himself and of his family, and the right to security in the event of unemployment, sickness, disability, widowhood, old age, or other lack of livelihood in circumstances beyond his control. End of quotation. 75 years later, this pledge is far from fulfilled. As the global community is coming together for the 61st Commission for Social Development, we need to be reminded what social protection for all will mean to the 53% of the world's population, that is 4.1 billion people who are still not covered by any social protection method. Universal social protection, as highlighted in SDG 1.3, is key for protecting livelihoods in times of complex and overlapping crises. The COVID-19 pandemic taught us that strong social protection systems are needed to ensure that countries can address the social and economic consequences of crisis. Universal social protection means all people against all risks along the life course. The German Development Corporation promotes social protection as an inclusive system in partner countries, supporting the integration of different instruments such as social assistance, social insurance, and labor market to ensure comprehensive lifelong protection for the entire population. Dear colleagues, many of those who lack access to social protection are workers in informal employment. That is to say, workers whose fundamental rights at work are not guaranteed and whose human right to social security is being violated. Social protection is one of the pillars of decent, including these workers in social protection systems, is one of the key challenges many countries are facing to accelerate progress towards universal social protection. This challenge is also a huge opportunity. Labor market institutions and employment policy are a key driver in linking social protection with decent work. Employment strategies that explicitly promote organization of enterprises and employment reduce pressure on social protection schemes and increase the contributory base to ensure sustainable financing. On the other hand, social protection plays an important role in promoting better health and education, in turn contributes to a productive workforce that is in a position to exercise workers' rights. Social protection measures can also ease structural transformation phases that are necessary if we want to achieve sustainable and environmental friendly economies. Workers in certain less sustainable sectors will need to update or change their skill set and need time to find new jobs. Social protection provides a crucial safety net for these times in transition. Linking employment policies and social protection policies can therefore open up mutually beneficial synergies. There are significant challenges ahead in closing the policy gaps and bringing both areas of intervention together, but the opportunities are far greater. I'm looking forward to hearing the experiences in this regard from our colleagues from Morocco, from Costa Rica, from China, Zambia. Dear ladies and gentlemen, social protection is a key priority for Germany's development cooperation. Together with G7, we committed to support developing countries and extending universal social protection, aiming to help cover another 1 billion people in 2025. This can only be achieved if developing countries put in place and invest in inclusive national policies. And there is an urgent need for increased and coordinated international support. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm speaking to you also on behalf of the Global Partnership for Universal Social Protection. USP 2030 has been promoting exchange and advocacy for universal social protection since it was launched in 2016, together with the World Bank, the ILO, and many other agencies, NGOs, the African Union and the European Union, and many countries, including Germany. USP 2030 continues to grow, and we invite countries to join the partnership on the occasion of this Commission for Social Development. More recently, the Global Accelerator Initiative of the United Nations has firmly put joint international action for jobs and social protection on the agenda. I'm convinced Global Accelerator can be a success if it is implemented in close alignment with USP 2030 and if it can to the table the strength of all international stakeholders. This especially includes the international financial institutions, which provide the majority of international financing for social protection. We are currently working with the International Labour Organization and the World Bank towards new approaches for strengthened cooperation between both institutions. Key elements of this collaboration are joint support for countries and developing and financing architecture that is open to all stakeholders. We would like to join forces with all interested stakeholders and invite partner countries to participate in these efforts. Let me briefly announce that in June, we will convene a global forum on adaptive social protection in Berlin. International conference will place social protection firmly on the global agenda and discuss with partner countries from around the world how to strengthen alliances for the expansion of social protection. But we should not stop there. Social protection should be a focus of a new World Social Summit in 2025 proposed by the Secretary General. The summit should formulate a vision on the future of cooperation for social protection and for effective multilateralism to better respond to humanity's most pressing challenges. We should use the opportunity for universal social protection together with like-minded partners from all continents. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking forward to the contributions of our esteemed colleagues from Morocco, Costa Rica, China, and Zambia, and the comments by the representatives of the International Union Confederation and the International Organization of Employers. Thank you very much for your
Thank you so much, Mr. Meyer, for connecting from Germany and speaking also in your capacity as USP 2030 Steering Committee member, and your call for stronger coordination at the international level, connecting the Global Accelerator with the USP 2030. They were all heard, and hopefully we'll also have more time in the discussion to come back to some of your suggestions. Thank you very much again. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce the Honorable Minister, Mrs. Mwamba, the Minister of Community Development and Social Services of Zambia, who has been here in New York throughout the week with the Commission, really engaging very actively in the discussions. Mr. Minister, it is really our distinct pleasure to welcome you here today, and the floor is yours for some opening reflections. Please.
Thank you, Your Excellency, fellow panelists, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. May I express my gratitude to the International Labour Organization for organizing this very important event and for the opportunity given to me as Minister of Community Development and Social Services from Zambia, and on behalf of Zambia, to be part of this panel discussion on enhancing linkages between universal social protection and decent work. I wish to underscore the crucial role of social protection as an important means of addressing inequality gaps, as well as building resilience and increasing capacity to invest in productive assets and improved livelihood security. In the aftermath of COVID-19 pandemic, the negative impacts of climate change and the high cost of living, which have further been compounded by the global economic outlook, Zambia continues to make efforts to ensure access to decent work and a dignified life for all citizens. In line with this, the Zambian government has embarked on the process of revising the National Social Protection Policy so that it brings on board the prevailing global and national context of inequality and poverty. It will also take into account inclusive development and address the life cycle risks. Noting that social protection is one of the 4 pillars under International Labour Organization's Decent Work Agenda, Zambia issued the National Pension Scheme, Informal Sector Regulations, Statutory Number 72 of 2019, which gives an opportunity to the informal sector to be members of the scheme so as to provide an assured future of receiving pension benefits. In addition, Zambia is in the process of amending the National Pension Scheme Act to allow members to have early access to their pension benefits. This is meant to afford members an opportunity to invest their monies or engage in entrepreneurial initiatives so that they do not fall into the poverty trap after retirement. Further, we issued workers' compensation, domestic workers regulation statutory number 13 of 2021, which linked domestic workers to the Workers' Compensation Fund Control Board so as to enable domestic workers access pension, and compensation for personal injury. In order to ensure that the informal sector has access to finance, we have provided funds through the Constituency Development Fund and Youth Empowerment Fund that are collateral-free with lower interest rates. These funds are utilized for vocational, life skills, and setting up of youth-led enterprises. Zambia has also implemented the horizontal emergency cash transfer program. In the light of the negative impact of climate change-induced disasters or shocks and interventions, both the informal and formal sectors are targeted with financial support. Lastly, I wish to also mention that Zambia enacted the National Health Insurance Act, which established the National Health Insurance Scheme, whose main aim is to provide universal assured health care services to all its citizens, regardless to whether they are in the formal or informal sector. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much again, Honorable Minister, for sharing the experience from Zambia and also these recent initiatives that are very promising towards extending social protection floors and formalizing employment. Now, we turn to another continent. Your Excellency, Vice Minister of Multilateral Affairs of Costa Rica, we look forward to hearing from your perspective. Please, the floor is yours.
Yes, please. Thank you. No, I was saying that I'm very pleased to participate in this important event. And what a week, I must say. It was a really interesting one. And this is what we small countries or developing countries are looking for in the multilateralism. Is exactly the sharing of good practices, the fact that we can find people from other countries with another expertise that can share also how they are doing and how we can learn from them, and also how we can learn to others. From a small country like Costa Rica, we are really committed in this new vision of the world where solidarity is part of the daily life of our countries. And I think that the pandemic shows us that we need to build on this path, on the solidarity, and to find more what we move as peoples together than alone. And this is, I want to convey this message also, how we happy are from the Costa Rican side to be participating this week in all those events. I must say hello to my dear friend now, Honorable Minister, that we share so many panels during this week, and also the colleagues who are in online. Costa Rica is a country, you may not convinced that the purpose and the meaning of development is not merely accumulation of wealth, but the achievement of the well-being of human beings and their health in our environment. Which means we are based in people-centered approach, but also the environment moving also at the same time in our development, and not only try to change this concept that we need to make wealth, and then when we are rich, we can look for the other things. No, we need to have a holistic approach on that, and for Costa Rica, this is a conviction that has guided us as a nation in the 2 centuries that we have as a Costa Rica. And for sure, the result of that is the preparedness of our people. Our people is well prepared. The human capital is our main source of wealthy. And let me share also with you, the pandemics reveal and deepen many of the pre-existing social, economic, and technological gaps. And some countries had the possibility to take in financial and monetary measures in trillions of billions of dollars. It was not the case of Costa Rica, or at least mostly all the countries all around the world didn't have this opportunity to put a lot of capital in their economies to recover immediately. That's why it was so challenging for a country like Costa Rica to move forward. And it was also a danger that we move away from our conviction to have the people in the center of our concerns. And that's why we have at the same time a health crisis, but also economic crisis. And the result is a social crisis that is the worst case scenario, and that's why we call that multidimensional of the crisis, because the crisis in itself has a lot of consequences. And what the Costa Rica did at the time, first of all, we need to do our inventory, that how is the situation of the country. We don't have fiscal space to invest a lot. We don't have the manufacture of vaccines, but we have the capacity to give medical service to our people. And this was the main concern of the government, was to put all the resources on the medical services. But I want to raise, at least to share with you, 3 points that for us were fundamental. The first one is the global crisis demands global solutions. The proposed global accelerator on jobs and social protection can allow us to develop enabling environments in the caring, digital, and green economies that broadens the horizon of human development through the expansion and strengthening of the welfare state. That's for sure, with a stronger and more robust social protection system, support by greater and greener fiscal investment by states. And this is a call also for the international financial institutions. They have to invest in our countries, in green economies, but with a view of enhance the social protection systems. Secondly, any recovery, which is in the first point is a global crisis need global solutions. It's not possible for the United States to solve that alone. It's not possible for Costa Rica. It's not possible for Zambia. But together we can do it. We can move forward. And these solutions must be greener with investment in social protection. Secondly, any recovery or stimulus package that is not green will miss the opportunity. We have a huge opportunity now to rebuild our economies with a sense of the weight of environment in our future, in a future of our generations. And this is something that we need to invest in nature as an asset. And no, this is going to be costly. No, it's a reality, it's a new reality, and this is the way what we need to move. What is Costa Rica doing? We commit ourselves to have a decarbonization plan for 2050, which is mean we want an economy without no oil in the future. Actually, we have our matrix of electricity with 99% renewable, but we need to change our matrix of energy, which is mean where we have transport that is still in 50% of our matrix of energy. Which is mean we have challenges, but that's why we need investment, but investment that are coming from a point of view of greener economies. And if you allow me, I want also third, the countries need to advance the implementation of the multidimensional approach to poverty. And the conversion of administrative records into data and the measurement of the vulnerability of the country's household allow the government to prioritize and make social investment more efficient. We need an approach not only on the base of the GDP, but also an approach and the territory, but also target groups in vulnerability. And this is the multidimensionality of the poverty. You cannot fight poverty in Zambia the same way in Costa Rica is not the same in Germany or in Switzerland, that's for sure. And we need to look at that and do not stick to the index of the GDP. Costa Rica is a rich country, but in this country you're going to have a lot of difference in gaps. And the problem is that the COVID-19 pandemics enlarge this gap at the social level. Those vulnerable groups are more vulnerable now than before, and we need to move forward to tackle these challenges. I think I'm going to stay there because I wanted to send these three key messages that are important, and also to share that I think that we need to move in a sense that to have universal healthcare systems all around the world, the social system, strengthen the social system in all the countries, and to have less asymmetries among those countries, because then you have a lot of phenomena that comes, and one of that is very visible in our region is the migration. A lot of countries are losing their youth and their people because they want to leave other places to have better opportunities, and this is something that we need to move to a new social contract, a global social contract that can help us to have more equality all around the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Minister Guilherme Fernandes. Muchas gracias. You also gave us a lot of good points, food for thought, and hopefully we will come back to this in the discussion. I also want to let you know that we are already receiving first questions and observations from our online audience, so please stay tuned. But before we open up for the interactive discussion, I'd like to bring in our discussants, and it is my pleasure now to invite Ms. Paola Simonetti, Director of the Equality Department of the International Trade Union Confederation, to share her remarks. Please, Paola.
Thank you, Chair, and it's an honor being with such a distinguished panelist here today, and greetings to the people that are connected. So let me start with congratulating the Minister of Zambia for these very important reforms that she put in place, national pension schemes, universal pension schemes to cover the informal sector, and then, the protection, major protection on when it comes to health and safety at work for domestic workers are really key milestones that we really, would like to highlight as major achievements, because this is the way forward in our trade union, priorities. And indeed, we know that, as Mr. Dirk Meyer said, more than half of the global population lack any social protection coverage. And this is a major crisis, as the Vice Minister of Costa Rica said, that really requires a global response and a global solution. And we know that, and this is why we are calling as trade union movement governments to implement universal social protection systems, including floors, really covering, the universality and have an universality perspective. Because we know that the universal social protection systems can actually increase resilience, can fight poverty, as it was already underlined, inequality, and also act as a social and economic stabilizer, boosting development. So, and this is why it's important also to remind that social protection is one of the pillars of the decent work agenda. And this is one of the pillars of also the trade union movement calling for a new social contract. And this is why it's important when we talk about this, we talk about jobs, decent job creation, social protection with rights and equality and inclusion. And universal social protection can really, the extension of the universal social protection is really key to protect also informal workers and workers that are outside traditional employment arrangements, because also this phenomenon is actually growing. So, of course, when it comes to universal social protection, is the major responsibilities on the governments to implement universal social protection system, but we also recognize that there are some constraints on the financing at global level, especially for the countries that do not have probably the means, like the low-income countries, to financing the creation of this system. And we know that ODA, the official development assistance nowadays, is lacking when it comes to support of social protection, and this is why we are calling an increase of a share of the ODA to at least 7% by 2030. And Mr. Mayor has actually hinted to that. And then finally, last but not least, the Vice Minister of Costa Rica mentioned the accelerator. This is something that actually is part of the global response, and it's also something that could actually fill in the gap when it comes to the resources, international resources to implement universal social protections with floors. And we see from the trade union movement that the accelerator could be really a great instrument when it comes to the cooperation, international cooperation to boost social protection, together with jobs creation and together with just transition, because these are the three main pillars of the accelerator. So we really call on governments to work with the ILO and with the UN system in order to really boost the implementation of the objectives of the global accelerator everywhere, as much as, as fast as possible. But I will stop here, and because I think my time has actually finished. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Paola, for really being on time and also on target with your messages. Very well received. And now I'd like to turn to our online participant from the International Organization of Employers, Mr. Amadou Sakou, who is the Regional Advisor Project Officer for Africa of the IOE. Amadou, are you connected? Yes, here we are. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm connected. Greetings to all of you, both in the room and online. I will try not to take too much time. It's a topic on which there is a lot to say. But in short, social protection is very important for employers, not only because business is one of the main founders of most social protection systems, nor because SPCM's financial component, but because this is really part of our social commitment. And the employers, we have been pushing strong the agenda and supportive to the ILO recommendation 202 on social protection floors, which has a real added value for its focus flexibility. And we are also highly committed in supporting SDG 1, in particularly target 1.3. To go straight to important points to the employer, it is very important to talk about a major challenge, which is informality. As you know, at the ILO, a bit more than 60% of the workers in the world or in the informal sector. So informality still need to be. And there is really a need to look further at the root cause and to elaborate on innovative ways to bring informality to the conversation on social protection if we want to talk about decent work. So the development of national social protection system needs to go hand in hand with policies to address the significant numbers of workers in the informal sector who are not covered nor contributing to them. And it is also key to improve the framework conditions for companies to ensure that economic growth and employment are created in the formal sector. Also, social protection, it's about safety nets, about social security, but it is also about promoting efficient transition. It is about competitive economies. It is about proper business environment, successful business. For this, we may need to focus not only in reducing inequalities and fostering social cohesion, but also in the promoting skills development, enabling sustainable enterprises, fostering productivity and employment as a key aspect for transition and avoiding poverty trap. Last but not least, we must rely on social dialogue and on social partners, which are essential to ensure efficient design and implementation of policy and measure. I'll stop here as the time that I have does not allow me to go further, but I would like to thank all of you again, and thank you to the speakers for sharing the very practical country example and case, such as Zambia. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Amadou. And indeed, it is really important to have the voice of the social partners in this discussion. And as you could also hear from the ministers, there's a clear recognition of your respective roles, and specifically also on the role of the private sector. So thank you, Amadou, and I hope you can stay with us and be part of the discussion. But before we open up, I'd like to give the floor to Ms. Marina Colby, Senior Labor Advisor of USAID. Marina, I think you are connecting from Washington. If that's right, it's great to have you here in this discussion, and the floor is yours, please.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Chair, and to the members that have gone before me. It's a real pleasure to be here today. And as was shared, my name is Marina Colby from the U.S. Agency for International Development. And this is the development agency of the U.S. government. And we're really pleased to be here today to really apply what's been said by our colleague from Germany in terms of the USP 2030. USA now very pleased to be a new member of USP 2030. And we also see the benefit of connecting USP 2030 with a global accelerator on jobs and social protection for just transitions. And from a development agency perspective, I would really like to highlight that through our work around the world supporting global labor rights, that we really hone in on informality and the way we can leverage and build and support social protection systems as an equalizer for vulnerable populations to be able to access work and employment opportunities. And just hearing from our representative of the partners, workers, and employers, we really see opportunities for employers and workers to work hand in hand along with governments to help build those pathways from informal work to more formal employment opportunities. And the building of social protection systems are really tied to the formal sector. And we see through our development program, and would like to note the progress in supporting workers in the informal economy, really bringing to the center worker voices and worker engagement along with employers, and through this type of collective action to help bring stronger, to help build stronger social protection systems. This way, like from the development perspective through global labor programming, we're seeing benefits of our partners working closely with worker organizations and trade union members, and also really want to amplify some of the points of our colleague from Zambia in terms of engaging with domestic workers, for example, and bringing more support for the ability to organize collectively, and creating this enabling environment for rights to be realized. And once labor rights are realized, then the participation and access to social protection systems are greater. So that's a contribution today from USAID, and we really look forward to continuing this type of engagement with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Colby, for sharing the perspectives of the U.S. International Agency for Development, and also for, again, emphasizing the importance of informality, engaging with social partners, and linking it also to the rights dimensions. I think that's also important. Something we also say in the ILO, that social protection is not philanthropy. It's a fundamental human right, and when you tie social protection to a rights-based framework, you also empower those, including people in most vulnerable situations. Now, let us open up for an interactive discussion. We have some representatives here in the room, and we got already questions from our online audience. So maybe I start with the online questions first. That gives you time to also think. Oh, we have, please. A delegate here, please. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam, for giving me the floor. I'm honored to be here with you in this very important event. I'm from the Chinese delegation. I want to share with you some of the China's policies and practices in regard to the social protection services. First, we have set up the world's largest social protection system. In 2014, China launched a program to ensure that everyone has access to social protection. Currently, the number of participants in basic pension, unemployment, and work-related injury insurance has reached 1.05 billion, 240 million, and 290 million, respectively, achieving full coverage of social protection for targeted population. Second, we achieved 100% coverage of social insurance for those in poverty and in needy. Social insurance has played a crucial role in China's battle against poverty. Social insurance services are provided to the key population identified and registered as living in poverty, extreme poverty, or below the minimum subsistence level. By 2020, all registered people in poverty are covered by basic pension scheme. We also implement a policy of a non-contributory basic pension for the key population. That means that the government contributes to the basic pension for those people. Third, we promote the sustainable development of a pension insurance system. In addition to provincial pension insurance funds for business employees, the central government sets up a special state pension fund to address the structural divide among provinces by shifting surplus in some developed provinces to make up for deficits in others. This is to balance the burden of pension funds and to ensure that pensions are paid in full and on time. Starting from 2005, we also have scaled up the basic pensions for retirees for 18 years. We actively respond to the accelerated trend of population aging and build a three-pillar pension insurance system with basic pension insurance as the first pillar, occupational benefits the second, individual savings and private pension the third, so as to meet the growing demand for pension security. Fourth, we optimize the social protection system for flexible workers. The booming of digital and platform economy results in an increasing number of people working in flexible employment models. Those people are outside the traditional social protection system and lack adequate protection. We are developing an occupational injury protection system for workers in those new sectors, and I have been carrying out pilot projects targeting deliverymen, same-city freight writers, freight drivers, ride-hailing platform drivers in 7 provinces since 2022. Fifth, we promote the digitalization of social protection service delivery. In 2019, we launched a national integrated public service platform for social protection and provided 83 services nationwide on one website for individuals and businesses. We promote the online processing for social protection services via online platforms and cell phone applications. To improve efficiency, we also set up an interagency collaborative mechanism and a big data resource sharing mechanism, and leverage big data in status identification and eligibility determination. Social protection is a basic structural guarantee to protect and improve livelihood, well-being, and maintain social equity. We are committed to providing more reliable and resilient social protection and meet the challenging and diversified needs of our people. And last, I think that there are still major challenges ahead for the Chinese government. The Chinese population has dropped for the first time since I think in half a century. This will pose serious challenges to the social protection system, especially the state pension fund. We are eager to learn from others, especially from the developed countries, to make sure that our pension system is more resilient and sustainable. Thank you.
I want to thank the distinguished delegate from China for this contribution and for bringing in the important dimensions related to the demographic and digital transitions. I think that's indeed also a main focus of the Global Accelerator that several speakers mentioned already. How do we facilitate just transitions towards obviously green economies, but as you just highlighted, how do you extend social protection measures in the digital economy towards green economies, as we heard, I think, very eloquently from the Vice Minister of Costa Rica, while also taking into account the demographic transitions that are affecting countries in different ways. And we've heard a lot about ageism this week. So I think we have very interesting points of discussion here that came to the table. Can I just see whether anyone else would like to take the floor in the room? Otherwise, I would, if you allow me, I would just want to bring in our online participants. And there were 2 questions. One, distinguished minister, if I may ask you, there was a question to elaborate further on this new scheme that you mentioned to bring in the informal workers, in particular how the registration would work and what are the solutions, and whether the system has already been accepted, but maybe it's too new to say it already, if it's just been introduced. And then we have we got a more provocative question here about social protection. Do we look at this as a silver bullet to solve crises? Are we not, I mean, we know that systems are weak, social protection systems in particular in the informal economy. Financing is a challenge. We heard this from several speakers. Are we not overstating the case? So maybe the social partners want to take that question, but please also, if anyone else would like to respond to those questions from our virtual floor. Minister, would you like to come back to the example of Zambia, please?
Thank you, Chair. The example in Zambia that I alluded to, actually 3 categories. The domestic workers, as you all know in this room that, and on the web, Zambia is still a developing country. Most of our people are poor and vulnerable, and most of the domestic workers are actually fall into that category of vulnerable people, because most of them are earning income of under $1 per day. And where we said we'll link them into schemes, put them on one workers' compensation control board fund in case of an injury, is that they're earning so little and we need to secure their lives. So it was our hope that when we place them under these schemes, in case of an injury, the government will be providing assistance. Maybe it could be a temporary injury or a permanent injury where the worker will have to stop work. Then government will move in and pay until that worker dies. And secondly, we also talked about the pensions scheme board, where all these in the informal sector and mostly domestic workers, farm workers, factory casual workers contribute, is that and that employment is not guaranteed. They are hired on and off. Even when they are not working, they've got a fallback. They can fall back on the pension, and even in older age, then they will fall back on the pension that they saved. In the informal sector in Zambia, we have also a category of drivers, it be truck drivers, taxi drivers. We are sensitizing them on the need to contribute, no matter how little they earn, to these pensions boards, compensation boards, and we are also sensitizing on the benefits of contributing to these bonds. It is a challenge. Like I said, that over 60% of the population fall under vulnerable and poor people. So these schemes, we thought as government that they come in as safety nets for our people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister, for these additional remarks. So let me just scan the room. Yes, please, Vice Minister. Yeah.
Thank you, Beate. And if you allowed me also, because the conversation is very interesting in the sense that, as Minister shows us, the problem when what shows us the pandemics and the situation is that there was a lot of asymmetries among the countries in their development and also in their social protection systems. For those countries who has a better system of protection, social protection system, they were less harmed by the pandemics, because the government has the tools to touch those vulnerable groups. But what the example of Zambia for me is a very good one, is that they took a situation that it was against us as an opportunity to change and to say, okay, it happens now, but we need to move forward and to be prepared for the next time, and also in a very proactive and constructive way, in the sense, let's try to enhance our social protection system. And here is what we needs to be done at the international level, in all the international community, is to try to have less asymmetries among the countries. And this is only possible with two, at least from our point of view, two elements. First of all, what was raised, the fact of this partnership among public and private sectors. This is fundamental, because those who can generate jobs at the end of the day are the best way to have decent work and social protection is the private sector, you know? And then, but you need also the support of the public sector, in the sense to have all the standard setting, to have enhanced social protection, and to give all the opportunities also for the private sector to grow and to have a market that it's open, and you have possibilities to engage in competencia, how we say it? Competitive market, so and so. I'm not trying to have a very liberal statement here. No, but it's only how it works. And the second one is fundamental, not only this partnership between public and private, but also is the financial institutions, the Bretton Woods institutions, the development banks, the regional developing banks, that need also the economic commissions of the UN and the region at the regional level, to move forward to this new vision of a global social contract that takes into consideration one of the main goals of the growth of the economy is the social protection and the protection of the environment. For us, for Costa Rica, as a point of view, this is the way to move forward. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vice Minister, and also for bringing in the financial institutions again. It's a very important point, and indeed, if I may, several of you have already mentioned the Global Accelerator. The idea of the accelerator emerged out of the Financing for Development initiative, and that the Secretary General spearheaded together with Canada, Jamaica, and many other countries who supported the initiative. And the key focus, and I think this is also a little bit the sort of a new feature, although, as we know, USB 2030 is a partnership already with the World Bank. But under the accelerator, the ambition is really to bring in financial institutions and the private sector in a much more systematic way, and to be coordinated also as a UN system. So that's really, I would say, a new level of ambition. But as we also heard from the distinguished speaker from Germany, we of course we need to make sure that what has already been achieved under the USP 2030, that very unique partnership, is integrated into the next level of ambition we have. We got another comment from our virtual audience commenting on the perspective from China. If I may just come back to the point you raised on the coverage in the digital economy, in particular the platform economy, and prompted people to think, what is the role of social insurance in these new forms of work, where sometimes we don't even know where the platform is registered. So how do you extend social protection to these types of employment? And I also invite our social partners, if they have any thoughts on this, to come in. And just to make sure that we are not missing anyone else, I mean our virtual speakers who may want to respond to this from USAID or Germany. Any other reflections? Before we, so then I would ask you exactly, Paola?
Yeah.
Yeah? And who else? Yes, please. So, if I may just ITUC, and then I hand over to you, yeah? Go ahead.
As you prefer. Please,
Please then come in, yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's just wanted to make an addition what has happened back home in Zambia in terms of coverage, in terms of insurance. Yeah, you've talked about, what has happened. The private sector has also come on board. They've actually devised, schemes that suit the vulnerable groups. For instance, like the marketeers now, they've come on board. They are also making some contributions, so much that, this is a sector that before that was not, had. But I think it's also important to note that in terms of the, you don't, you sort of simplify the regulation in terms of them registering. It should be something that is simple. So for those that are able to do it online, they can do it online, and those others now that can come physically and do that, given the type of work that they do. So, like I think the minister here, the vice minister was talking about, how do you make it attractive? Actually, there's a lot of competition back home there for these people, like the private insurance companies. They are all offering, starting from funeral cover to life cover, all those issues are handled. But also to note, one thing you should also note is that as government has also moved in terms of the informal sector to try to boot what we're calling minimum wages, so that the workers, the rights of these workers are protected. But again, even as government moves in, the aspect of dialogue is very important, because government does dialogue with the employers, and agree, looking at the economy, and say, okay, this is the threshold that we're going to have for instance, a domestic worker. You can pay less, more. You can even pay more than that. But the government will actually benchmark and say, you can, for a domestic worker, this is the amount of money that you need to pay. So everybody now pay according to what has been said by government. But of course, it's not something that the government does on its own. They have to dialogue with both the employer and the unions. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for these additional information. So I think that was a nice segue into actually handing over to the social partners again. Paula, please.
Yes, indeed. Thanks again for this addition in adequate minimum living wages. Yes. This is exactly what we are calling, governments to implement, and it's indeed part of our call on the new social contract. So this is really central, and the dialogue with social partners should be really, like a parameter, let's say, when discussing living minimum wages. But to reply to the, I think, provocative question, are really overstating the role of social protection. Mm-hmm. I don't think we are, because we are actually lagging behind, when I said before, because, we know that half of the global population lack any form of social protection coverage. And as the minister explained again, we are talking about really the everyday life of people, of workers. We are talking about protection when people get injured during the work. We are talking about, maternity protection when, women get pregnant. And we are talking about, how people can survive once they've finished working with the pension system. So it's really something about our life, our everyday life. So, and then, of course, Beate has underlined that this is about rights, and this is why I was also recalling that social protection is the major pillar of the decent work agenda. Is part of the decent work agenda, and indeed it's part of the overall concept of sustainability, because of course Goal 8, SDG 8, is enshrined within the Agenda 2030. But last but not least, the financing piece, still, yet again, it's the issue. Mr. Meyer mentioned about the possible new World Social Summit in 2025. I would like to add that also we should keep in the radar the possible fourth conference on financing for development. And this would be, I think, a great opportunity in 2025 really to finally link the social policy agenda together with the financing agenda to go hand in hand. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Paula. And I'm now checking with our online speakers whether they would like to share any final reflections. That doesn't seem to be the case. We are also reaching the end of the event. Oh, Amadou, please. Amadou.
Just quickly, I think Amadou, yeah.
Quickly, I just wanted to make a comment on platform economy. As employer, we do not believe that the solution can be found in applying generic global standards across a diversity of platforms and experiences that either intercede with important reforms at the national or local level, or more significantly, do not any material respects improve the life experience. So there is no one size fit all or quick fix exist when we talk about the platform. I just wanted to raise this point.
Thank you so much, Amadou. And again, really good and very important to have the IOE as representative of the private sector here in this discussion. I see also Mr. Meyer on the screen. Please.
It's just very short, because the provocative question provoked me very much. And I'm
so glad someone is taking the bullet.
I just would like to reverse it. You can understand. You hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. I would reverse it actually, and say we underestimated for a too long time the role of social protection, and because we see, not just because of the pandemic, we are in times of multiple crises, and if we want to have an instrument against the shocks, and if we have an instrument, a preventive instrument against a collapse of social groups and even societies, we really need social networks. And I'm very glad that this very ideological times of being against any kind of social protection is ending now by all our learnings. So we can't underestimate it. It is a point for any kind of progress for the next decades, probably, I think. Over.
Excellent. Thank you so much for this, I think, very powerful response. And we see this, I think it resonates. We can see this in many of the UN discussions here in New York, that the social issue has really come to the fore. And COVID certainly contributed to this, but also other overlapping crises that we face. And we cannot face alone, as you said, Vice Minister. I see also Marina Colby. Do you want to come back into the discussion for some final comments? Yes, please.
Yes. Thank you. Just one really quick final intervention, really to amplify what we've been hearing, that there's an important dual nature of social protection's ability to sustain vulnerable populations during times of crises, as well as providing the means for all people to achieve basic human dignity. And this makes social protection a very valuable tool. And to promote inclusive development, economic growth, improved health outcomes, and gender equality. So really amplifying the importance of social protection. And thank you all.
Thank you again. Also commending you as AID for joining the USP 2030 partnership, the news you announced earlier, and also hope we can extend our collaboration in the framework of the Global Accelerator. Now, our distinguished ministers, the final words are for you if you wish to leave us with some final reflections of the week, because it's probably almost the last event. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Berthe. And I must say, I wanted to jump on what's been said before by the two predecessors, in the sense that the social protection systems are a vaccine against instability. And this is something that we need to raise. It's a good business for the governments and also for the employees. It's not a bad business. Could be that you need to do a huge investment at the beginning, but then the social system and the social relations and the dynamic, the social dialogue in the country will be an accelerator for the development. But also, and this is my last point, it helps for the good governance of the countries. It goes also in the SDG 16 on rule of law, which means is kind of a very magic vaccine. And this is the last point I want to make. This is a very good, social protection systems are a good business, and we need to improve them and to move forward to have more and more in our countries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Minister Guillermo Fernandez. Minister Mwaba, would you like to leave us with a final word?
Yes. What I want to say is that you cannot delink social protection from human rights. Social protection is a human rights issue, and good governance is based on how well you implement social protection programs. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very powerful statements at the end. Thank you to everyone for joining this discussion here in the room and virtually. I wish you a good conclusion of the week, a very intense week, I think, which again brought social issues really to the fore of the international agenda. And thank you so much for your support, and I wish you a wonderful afternoon. Thank you again. Thank you. Also to ILO colleagues for organizing this.